Okay, folks, welcome to the Intel Frog Report for Thursday, December the 1st, 2022. Let's start off over here in ADSB Exchange. We're going to take a look at the P8 activity, see what's going on with the P8s here. Looks like there's 12 P8s up, one in the northwest. The rest of them are out of here, out of NAS Jacksonville. That's fairly normal. Anywhere from 6 to 12 P8s up at a time is fairly usual. We got a couple working down here in the Whiskey 497 area, just off the Cape or off the coast of the Cape Canaveral. One up here in the Sealord area, just off the coast of Jacksonville, doing some very loose orbits. Looks like this guy's coming back home after doing some touch and goes up at Myrtle Beach and Knoxville. Let's see what else we got up. See if anything catches my eye here. KC-46 looks like coming back from across the Atlantic. Let's see. We've got an E-8C Joint Stars here. That's a U.S. Air Force aircraft. Big White 707. It's a battlefield management aircraft. They can track moving targets. They map the battlefield, that kind of thing. Let's take a look and see how many tankers we have up. Looks like 40 right now, all across the U.S. Several KC-135s and KC-46s are up, and there's a KC-10 extender. Let's see what we got for heavies. 58 heavies up right now. That's C-17, C-5s, and C-130s. That's a little higher than usual. Usually around, I don't know, 35 to 40 seems to be the accurate count, or the average count during the middle of the day. So 58's a little higher, but we do have some troop rotations going on. The troops that we sent to Poland and Eastern Europe are getting ready to rotate out, and new troops are getting ready to rotate in to fill their place. So that could be part of it. A lot of equipment, a lot of troops moving at the moment. Let's take a look over in Europe, see if there's anything that catches our eye over here. What is that? Well, that's a E7 Wedgetail. So that's a replacement for the E3 Sentry. Instead of the big rotating radar, it'll have this stationary radar that looks like a wedge on the back. This is what's going to replace the E3 Sentries in the U.S. here in the next couple of years. The Air Force finally decided to go ahead and pull the trigger, and we're going to have some E7 Wedgetails coming up. That's over Turkey. That's a Turkish military, so that's normal. Let's see, that a P8? No. Alright, not a whole lot going on. We do have one of the guardrails up, U.S. Army guardrail MC-12, RC-12, I'm sorry. Looking at Belarus, they're up just about every day out of Lithuania. There's usually a pair of them up working together, but it looks like only one up right now. So last night we had a pretty big exercise off the coast of California. It was down here in this area off of Baja California. Bear with me while my map loads. Right here in this exercise area right here is where the activity was. We had several aircraft. One RC-135 rivet joint was up. 6 KC-135s. 2 E3 Sentries were up. There's one of them right there. There's the other one, and the RC-135. There we go. And the RC rivet joint. So about 345 Zulu, they came out to play in this area here. Shortly after, they were followed by several KC-135s coming out, and a couple of C-17s, as well as a U.S. Customs aircraft that was out here. Nope. Flight Radar 24 wants to glitch me. Let's reload it here. Bump the speed up a little bit. There's the KC-135s coming out. The C-5 Galaxy came out as well. Not sure what that was doing out there, but they did have some C-17s, and Flight Radar wants to be stupid today. But we did have several aircraft active right here. Now the CVN-72, which is the USS Abraham Lincoln, was active in that area last night as well. So it could have been an exercise for them. Could have been a joint forcible entry exercise. I'm not sure what the exercise was, but there was definitely a lot of activity down there. So let's take a look at the NOTAMs and military operational areas. Here's that exercise area off of Baja, California that we talked about. Looks like POTUS is going to be heading to Boston tomorrow, and then over to Camp David on Friday evening for the weekend. Not sure why that TFR is so small. It might get bigger. Normally the TFR has two rings, a 10-mile ring and a 30-mile ring for presidents. Vice presidents get, I think, a 10-mile ring, and that's it, a 3-mile and a 10-mile. These are exercises. This is for fast-moving aircraft within 100 nautical miles of McConnell Air Force Base. This is fast-moving aircraft as well. Military operational area, another one. All these red boxes are mostly military operational areas. That's different over Vancouver. Oh, alternate routing. That's probably due to manning. Reduce system capacity and anticipated traffic control demands. Okay. Go over to Europe and see if anything over there catches our eye. Not a lot. They get a lot going on here. I'm not sure what all these are. There's a lot of exercises. There's a lot of military operational areas. It might just be set up how the U.S. is with airspace set aside. Big box over Ukraine still. Whoops. Took me back to the U.S. Airspace in Ukraine is still contested. It's not controlled by Ukraine or Russia. Both have aircraft that are flying. Both are shooting down aircraft that are flying. So it's a dangerous area for any commercial aircraft, and you can see that commercial aircraft are still avoiding it. I'll take a look over here at Flight Radar 24 and see the big hole around Kiev. I'm sorry, around Ukraine. wide berth around Ukraine here so that there's no chance of accidentally getting shot down like MH17. Let's take a look at news around the services. U.S. Air Force begins its planned withdrawal of F-15 fighters from Kadena Air Force Base in Japan. So what they're doing is they're divesting all of their F-15 Charlie and Delta Block aircraft. Those are going to be coming back to the States, and they're going to get distributed to various Air National Guard units across the country. There isn't going to be a permanent presence filling in for the F-15s after their retrograde. They're going to do deployments of F-22s and F-35s, and possibly the new Echo Block F-15C, F-15s, Es. But they'll be there on a rotating basis, not a permanent presence. This was a planned retrograde. It's been in the works for a few years now. Afghan soldier sought asylum in the U.S. was arrested at the Texas border. This guy was a special operator for the Afghan army, and he was unable to make it to Kabul in time for the evacuation when we pulled out of Afghanistan. Long story short, what ended up happening is he made a trek through Mexico and wound up on the southern border, and he's now been arrested after showing up at the southern border, which is kind of a sad state of affairs. Anybody who worked for us and helped us in Afghanistan, we should have been able to take them out and give them some safety. This gentleman escaped Afghanistan, and now he's sitting in a Texas jail, which I think is wrong, but that's just me. If you're going to come here, do it legally. But at the same point in time, if you worked for us, you should be allowed to come here. It shouldn't have any questions asked about that, in my opinion. Coast Guard's monitoring an oil spill near Lake Charles, Louisiana. About 3,500 gallons of used lubricant oil entered the water. They have Coast Guard pollution responders, as well as Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, the Calcaso Parish Office, Marine Division, Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, and the Lake Charles Fire Department are all on scene working to mitigate this spill. Six women completed the Marine Infantry Officer course in 2022. That's a record high, and that also doubles the number that have completed it to date, since women were allowed to go in. A total of 12 women have now completed the course out of 39 applicants who have attempted it. It's a very, very demanding course in Quantico, Virginia. It's one that every infantry officer in the Marine Corps goes through. It's 13 weeks, and it's extremely physically, mentally demanding and taxing. The attrition rate's pretty high, but I don't know what the attrition rate actually is. Fire aboard the carrier Abraham Lincoln injures 9 minor injuries. The 6 of those sailors injured were from dehydration, according to officials with the 3rd Fleet. All injured were treated aboard the ship, which was operating off the coast of Southern California. And let's see where it's at. There we go. So it was operating in the same area as those exercises. The fire must not have been too severe because it's still out of port. If it was a severe fire, you would think that they would return to port for damage assessments and repairs. But the fire was quickly identified and extinguished through the crew's firefighting efforts, according to the 3rd Fleet. U.S. Space Command supports the use of responsive launch to deter China and Russia. According to General James Dickinson, who's the head of U.S. Space Command, they're looking to develop a concept called tactically responsive space. What they're basically talking about is needing commercial partners to build capabilities and replenish our military space assets. The U.S. Space Force has a contract to demonstrate a responsive launch capability, but in true government fashion, it won't take place until next year. If we end up getting into a war with China or Russia, who have advanced anti-space capabilities, we'll have a need to replenish our satellites very quickly. We can't wait a year. So what they're talking about doing is going with or partnering with private sector companies, SpaceX, ULA, Boeing, some other space contractors, to use the commercial side of it, the house, to launch payloads if we need to. And they're calling that tactically responsive space. Let's take a look at the ports. Here we can see some ships on their way in and out of LA and Long Beach. Now, the backlog that was here last year, all the way up until about Thanksgiving of this year, has ended, according to the Port of LA. They've officially ended it just before Thanksgiving, but there still are some ships out here that are just waiting to get into port. Several tankers and a few cargo ships. Now, overall, imports on the West Coast are down, and that's because back during the backlog, when we had over 100 ships out here off of LA and Long Beach, shippers started diverting their traffic to the Gulf Coast, to the East Coast of the United States. So what's happened is Los Angeles imports keep sinking as the East Coast gains more ground. The LA imports fell 28% year on year, 2% month on month. We can see imports are down quite a bit from their levels 2021, 2020, and 2019. But that's LA only. East Coast ports are booming while West Coast facilities lag, and that's because of that backup and shippers diverting their traffic to the East Coast instead of the West Coast. So let's take a look over at Savannah. We've got several ships just waiting over off the coast of Savannah. They have not been able to work through their backlog very well. They get these ships through in about a week. All of these ships will turn over in about a week to 10 days. But they've still got several that are out here just waiting. They've got a queue building. Same thing's going on in Houston. There we go. Same thing's going on in Houston. You can see all the vessel traffic in and out of the port there. Several tankers, several cargo carriers. They've not been able to work through their backlog as effectively and efficiently as the West Coast has. And they've also had they've had shippers shipped to them instead of the West Coast as well. All right, that's going to do it for our report today. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back on Monday with a new report. Thanks much.